Cigarette smoking kills nearly 500,000 Americans a year, but it may not always be easy to identify tobacco products putting our health at risk. A new program launched by the Wisconsin Department of Health Services is focused on tobacco use. Tobacco is Changing informs communities, especially communities of color, about new tobacco products and the dangers these products pose. Joining us is Michael Campbell, the program coordinator for the Wisconsin African American Tobacco Prevention Network. Michael, thanks so much for being with us.
Hello, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
How did the Tobacco is Changing campaign get started?
Well, the campaign got started because, as the title suggests, tobacco is changing. Many people consider tobacco only to include cigarettes, not taking into consideration things like the e-cigarettes and the vaping pens, all these alternative products that are now available that have the same harsh impact on our lives as cigarettes once did, but they have been remanufactured, redesigned, and made to appeal to a different audience and a new generation.
In fact, people in the tobacco industry will often say that e-cigarettes and vaping, for example, are actually safer for people to use.
Yeah, that's the belief, and we've heard that before. So for decades, the tobacco industry has been telling us that, these things aren't harmful, but years later, data comes out, reports come out, and then we get the truth. So it's totally not true. They may have been delivering it in a different format. It may not have the harsh smells that it once had because they're using these candied and fruit flavored scents, but that does not make it safer for you to consume.
What are some of the tobacco products that are being marketed, especially to communities of color?
Well, for communities of color, menthol is still the top number one. Menthol for decades has been used in ads and campaigns to target African American communities. We've seen this way back, even back when magazine ads were out. They would use athletes and celebrities to endorse these products. You saw the Cool Jazz Festival back in the day that used to be used to promote smoking and let people know how cool it was and associate it with musicians. Even to the point where you had like vans driving into neighborhoods to distribute menthol products for free in Black communities. So people don't know all the history and some of the impact that menthol has on itself. But when it comes to the Black community, that's the biggest issue when it comes to tobacco products is menthol.
What is it about the menthol product that makes it harder to quit and makes it more addictive?
Yeah, it's really the fact that, nicotine is addictive by itself. If you can't sense like the harshness of the nicotine and the chemicals in the tobacco product because it's been kind of like masked with this menthol flavoring, then you really are consuming more because you're thinking like, oh, this feels good. The sensation feels good. I'm not really getting the harsh impact I would if I had a non-menthol tobacco product. So the menthol actually makes it easier to consume. And makes it less noticeable that, those burning chemicals that are inside of you are being consumed inside your body. So it's really a trick that a lot of people end up not knowing what that menthol is actually doing, but it's making it easier for you to consume that addictive product.
When we look at the other tricks that are going on, it's not just menthol. Some of these newer tobacco products have actual fruit flavors as well?
Yeah, we're starting to see like the same tricks that we saw with menthol. So right now the FDA is working on a ban. They're in the late stages of a ban to ban the manufacturing and the sale of menthol tobacco products because, we know the truth about it now. And in order to prepare for what's coming with that ban, they're experimenting with these other flavors and other ways to be able to mask the things that menthol was used before. So it's creating, how are they trying to get away from the image of this cigarette? Well, it's by creating these electronic devices, these vape pens, these e-cigarettes, using these different flavors that, they can use to kind of have the same impact that menthol had. So the tobacco industry is very clever when it comes to how they figure out how to navigate around the law. And that's what we're seeing in these new fruit flavored products.
When you have those fruit-flavored products, in addition to the menthol, it would seem that that is something that particularly might appeal to young people.
Exactly. And that's why we have the Tobacco is Changing program. That program was developed as a campaign to be able to educate parents and educators of middle and high school students to let them know that, you may be thinking that your team is or, is not using tobacco products, but the tobacco products look different. So it's not just about looking for cigarettes these days. There are a variety of other nicotine and tobacco products that have been generated that we want adults to be aware of so that they can look out for those and know what teens might have their hands on.
How do parents and other adults know what to look for? What should they be looking for?
Well, I would recommend going to tobaccoischanging.org to take a look at the website. There's videos and there's a lot of images that are going to show you what some of these products look like. As I mentioned, they're not your typical pack of cigarettes that you might expect. They're not little cigars. They come in a variety of different things that might look like candy to you, or it may just look like these little cool tech devices. So it's quite interesting the way that they're designing these new tobacco products to get around that. And we think it's important for parents to go to tobaccoischanging.org to get familiar with those so that they know what to look for exactly.
This marketing of tobacco products, particularly menthol products, has really hit communities of color, the African American community, particularly hard. What are some of the health disparities that we see because of these products being so prevalent in the community? I read somewhere that people in African American communities are twice as likely to see products, tobacco products that advertise menthol than people in other communities.
Yeah, you're touching on a couple of different things. The first thing that I'll say when it comes to the burden of tobacco on health in Black communities, heart disease, cancer, and stroke are some of the top three main causes of death in the African American community. And tobacco products, menthol, cigarettes, all of that has a very high relevancy to those deaths. The other part of what I'll say, and I experienced this as a youth transitioning into adult myself, inside of the Black neighborhoods and communities, you're really bombarded with a lot of alcohol and tobacco marketing and advertising. So I talked before how it used to be the magazine ads, and magazines aren't as prevalent as they once were. It used to be the music festivals where they sponsor the musicians. Now what they're doing is they're using these point of sale advertising. So if you walk inside of a corner store or a gas station in a Black neighborhood, you're going to see both outside and inside these ads for these menthol products by the register, on the wall. They're bombarded by them. I can remember when I was an adult and working outside of the city, I went into a gas station in a corner store and immediately noticed like, oh, you don't have all those same ads and things that you have in like outer suburban communities as you do in the city in the Black neighborhood. So the targeting is very intentional. And we do our outreach and our education campaigns to make people aware of that, to let them know this really is an issue and we want you to understand what's happening behind this.
One of the things that you do is you particularly have a day called No Menthol Sunday as a way to inform the community. Tell us about that.
Yes, No Menthol Sunday is a day of action which is led by the Center for Black Health and Equity nationally. But locally, the Wisconsin African American Tobacco Prevention Network hosts a number of activities in partnership with retailers, with faith community leaders, churches, pastors, who all kind of join in and support to be able to raise awareness about menthol and the impact that it has on the community. So we have been doing that for quite some years. It's always a huge turnout. We get great media coverage from it, but it's a way for us to be able to partner with those who want to help address these issues in the Black community, to be able to take action and support the initiative.
One of the things you mentioned a little bit earlier is the idea of the FDA ban for menthol products. If the FDA moves forward with that ban, what happens to these fruity flavored and other tobacco products that are out there? Will they still be able to exist? Will they still be able to impact the health of our community?
What's interesting is like this is currently still in a late process, and we had always considered menthol to be treated the same as all the other flavors. So what happened was when there was a flavor ban, that happened a couple of years ago, and in that flavor ban, menthol was excluded. So there are more rules and restrictions around manufacturing products when it comes to these flavorings, when it comes to fruit flavorings, but menthol now got separated from that. Now that's a whole nother legal battle that the FDA is currently fighting. So menthol, I think that might have been the lifesaver that they were like, okay, go ahead, you could take these away. Yeah, maybe these are too appealing to kids, but let us have this. And now the FDA is going against that. So we're really hoping and looking forward to that coming into place, because it's really going to help save hundreds of thousands of lives, and people won't be penalized. There's a lot of misinformation that if people use menthol products or if they're caught, holding menthol products, it's really not at that level. The FDA has let everyone know clearly that this is about the manufacturing and the sale of these menthol tobacco products, not about a consumer using it or possessing it.
Good clarification. Thank you. One
Uh-huh.
of the things that you all do, is not just inform individuals and communities about these new tobacco products. You actually offer help to people who are trying to quit smoking.
Yes, that is correct. And there are a number of different resources that are out there. One thing that we're doing to help the community prepare for when this menthol ban occurs is, what do I do? If I'm someone who uses a menthol product, how do I quit? What are my next steps? So we've been working diligently in the community. Just last week, I believe we held a menthol community meeting, letting people know, informing them about the ban, addressing the misinformation, and connecting people to some of the resources that are out there. If a person is an adult in Wisconsin and they're looking to get resources to help quit using menthol and tobacco products, the state has the Quit line, which they can go to at 1-800-QUIT-NOW. And then specifically for teens, there's actually a mobile program called Live Vape Free. So if they were to text vape free, all in one word, to 873-373, they'll be able to get access to resources that are specifically meant for teens.
And as always, they can go to tobaccoischanging.org to get additional information and to access more resources.
Exactly. Yes, that's correct.
Michael, thanks so much for the work that you're doing to keep communities safer, and thank you for being with us.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
That's all for this week. Thank you for joining us on Connect MKE. Stay well and take care.